Picture this. The year is 1916. World War I is raging across the muddy trenches of Europe. A brutal stalemate of attrition. But another, less visible war is being fought on the vast, unforgiving waters of the North Sea. This is a war of steel giants, of colossal dreadnoughts, a high-stakes naval chess match between the two most powerful fleets the world had ever seen. At stake, nothing less than control of the seas, the vital arteries of the British Empire. For 2 years, these titans had prowled, postured, and skirmished. But a full-blown, decisive clash remained elusive. That was all about to change. On the last day of May 1916, the pieces were finally moving into position for the greatest naval battle in history, the Battle of Jutland. The stage was set for a confrontation of epic proportions. On one side, the British Royal Navy's Grand Fleet, commanded by Admiral Sir John Jellicoe. This was the largest, most powerful naval force on the planet, the inheritor of Nelson's legacy and the guardian of Britain's global empire. Jellicoe was a cautious, meticulous planner, acutely aware that, as Churchill famously said, he was the only man who could lose the war in an afternoon. His fleet was a staggering assembly of power, 28 dreadnought battleships and 9 battlecruisers, bristling with guns that could hurl shells the weight of a small car over the horizon. Leading his vanguard of battlecruisers was the dashing, aggressive Vice Admiral Sir David Beatty, a man itching for a fight. On the other side, the German Imperial Navy's High Seas Fleet, commanded by Admiral Reinhard Scheer. Though outnumbered, the German fleet was a formidable opponent. Their 16 dreadnoughts and 5 battlecruisers were masterpieces of engineering, often better armored and with superior shell design and gunnery optics. Scheer was a bold and skilled strategist. He knew he couldn't win a straight-up slugging match with the entire Grand Fleet. His plan was a clever trap. Use his fast battlecruisers under the command of Vice Admiral Franz von Hipper to lure a portion of the British fleet, specifically BDS battlecruisers, to the waiting guns of his main battleship force. It was a risky gamble, but it was Germany's best shot at breaking the crippling British blockade that was slowly starving their nation. The initial moves of the battle began on May 31st. Both fleets had put to sea, each unaware of the other's full strength and intentions. The first shots were fired in the mid-afternoon, when Beatty's and Hipper's battlecruiser squadrons, acting as scouts for their main fleets, unexpectedly sighted each other. The hunt was on. Beatty, with his superior numbers, immediately gave chase, steaming south to engage Hipper. This was the beginning of the phase known as the Run to the South. The two lines of sleek, fast-moving battlecruisers hammered away at each other. The German gunnery was terrifyingly accurate from the start. Within the first hour, disaster struck the British. First, HMS Invincible was hit by a salvo from the German battlecruiser von der Tann. A shell penetrated her magazine, and she exploded in a catastrophic ball of fire, taking over 1,000 men with her. Just 20 minutes later, the same horrifying fate befell HMS Queen Mary. A direct hit from the Seydlitz and Derfflinger caused a massive magazine explosion that tore the ship apart. Watching 2 of his capital ships vanish, Beatty famously remarked, "There seems to be something wrong with our bloody ships today." He was right. British cordite propellant was volatile, and anti-flash protection for the magazines was poor, a fatal design flaw the Germans had avoided. Despite his losses, Beatty pressed on, unknowingly running headfirst into Admiral Scheer's trap. Just as Hipper had planned, Beatty's squadron was led directly towards the main German high seas fleet. Suddenly, lookouts on the British ships spotted the terrifying sight of Scheer's entire line of battleships emerging from the haze on the horizon. The hunter had become the hunted. Beatty had no choice. He ordered an immediate turn, reversing course 180 degrees. This began the second phase of the battle, the run to the north. Now, it was Beatty's turn to act as bait, desperately trying to lead the pursuing German fleet into the jaws of his own commander, Admiral Jellicoe, and the full might of the British Grand Fleet, which was thundering down from the north to join the fray. The chase northward was a desperate, running fight. Beatty's remaining battlecruisers took a pounding, but held on, their faster speed just barely keeping them ahead of the German guns. All the while, Jellicoe, aboard his flagship HMS Iron Duke, was faced with the most critical decision of his life. He was sailing towards the sound of the guns, but due to sketchy intelligence reports and the complexities of naval communication, he had only a vague idea of the enemy's exact position, course, and speed. He needed to deploy his 24 dreadnoughts from their cruising formation into a single line of battle, a maneuver known as crossing the T. If he got it right, he could bring the full, crushing broadside of his entire fleet to bear on the front of the German line. If he got it wrong, he could expose his own ships to annihilation. In a moment of supreme tactical genius, based on fragmented reports and sheer intuition, Jellicoe made his call. He deployed his fleet to port, a move that perfectly positioned the Grand Fleet across the path of the oncoming German high seas fleet. As Scheer's ships emerged from the mist, they were met with a horrifying wall of fire from Jellicoe's battleships. For the first and only time in the battle, the Grand Fleet was in its perfect formation, and the German fleet was caught completely by surprise, sailing directly into a hailstorm of British shells. Scheer realized his entire fleet was moments from annihilation. He had to escape. In a brilliantly executed and highly disciplined maneuver, Scheer ordered a Gefechtskirtwang, or a battle turnabout. In unison, his entire line of battleships turned 180 degrees away from the British, disappearing back into the smoke and mist that covered the sea. Jellicoe, cautious of torpedo attacks and German mines in the fading light, chose not to pursue recklessly into the gloom. A short while later, Scheer, disoriented in the poor visibility, inadvertently turned back towards the British fleet and ran into the trap for a second time. Once again, Jellicoe's guns erupted, and once again, Scheer was forced to execute his life-saving battle turn to escape, this time covering his retreat with a desperate torpedo attack by his destroyers and a death ride charged by his already battered battlecruisers. As darkness fell, the main fleet action was over. The night was filled with chaotic, vicious, and sporadic clashes between smaller ships as Scheer skillfully navigated his fleet through the rear of the British formation and made a run for home. By the morning of June 1st, the German high seas fleet had slipped the net and was safely back in its harbor. The great battle was over. So, who won? In the immediate aftermath, it looked like a German victory. The British had lost 14 ships, including 3 massive battlecruisers, and suffered over 6,000 casualties. The Germans lost 11 ships, including 1 older battleship and 1 battlecruiser, with around 2,500 casualties. In terms of tonnage sunk and men lost, the Germans had clearly inflicted more damage. Kaiser Wilhelm II declared a glorious victory, and the German press hailed Admiral Scheer as a hero. But the numbers don't tell the whole story. The crucial question is, what changed strategically? The answer is nothing. The German goal was to smash a portion of the Royal Navy and break the British blockade. They failed. The British goal was to maintain control of the North Sea and keep the blockade in place. They succeeded. The day after the battle, the British Grand Fleet was ready for action with 24 available dreadnoughts. The Germans could only muster 10. The high seas fleet was so battered that it would never again seriously challenge the Grand Fleet in a full-scale confrontation. They had won the tactical fight, but lost the strategic war. The blockade remained, tightening its stranglehold on Germany's war economy, a major factor in its eventual collapse in 1918. The Battle of Jutland was the last great battleship duel in history. It was a brutal, confusing, and ultimately indecisive clash that still sparks debate among historians today. Was Jellicoe too cautious? Was Beatty too reckless? Could the Germans have won? What we know for sure is that on that day in the North Sea, over 250,000 men aboard 250 warships fought for control of the waves. It was the climax of the dreadnought era, A terrifying spectacle of industrial warfare that, while tactically messy, confirmed British naval supremacy and helped shape the final outcome of the First World War. It served as a stark lesson that victory in war isn't just about who sinks the most ships, but about who is left controlling the sea when the smoke clears. Thanks for watching. If you found this dive into naval history interesting, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the pivotal moments that shaped our world. See you next time.